Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar for Bookkeeper Boost Week. Today, we are hosting a panel. We are going to be talking about the future of bookkeeping and what we're so excited about in the future of bookkeeping. I'm just going to give us a couple of seconds to make sure that we've got everyone who wants to join has been able to join. You'll notice that you're on our relatively new webinar platform. So this is On24. And if you're attending as an audience member, you will see lots of different widgets with like media players and team chat box and that kind of thing. So feel free to have a little play around with it, have a look at what we've got here. And yeah, it'd be lovely to hear where everyone's joining us from. I can see Claire Kendall in the chat. I said this earlier in the week, but like it's just not a FreeAgent webinar unless Claire Kendall's there. Our #1 fan, which we love to see. So yeah, and Susanna, lovely to see you. So I am in London today. It's actually relatively sunny, which is lovely, but pretty cold outside. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. So yeah, today we've got a live panel. I'm joined by 4 wonderful women, and we're going to be talking about the future of bookkeeping, which I think is going to be really good fun. If you don't know already, this is part of our Bookkeeper Boost Week, where we've been hosting sessions all throughout the week. All of them are recorded and available on our website. If not now, then will be very soon. And we've also got a giveaway going on over on our LinkedIn. So you can go ahead and enter if you would like. There's a Smeg blender to win, as well as some jelly cats, because we are like fruit themed here, which is always really exciting and fun. So if you would like to go ahead and enter that, you can click this link here. It'll take you to our LinkedIn post. You just have to pop a comment on win. So just a little bit of housekeeping to go through. So today's session will be recorded. Get asked it every single time. Definitely going to be recorded, not to worry. We do have a Q&A box, and if you have any specific questions for any of our panel guests, then please go ahead and use that, and we can flag them at the end if they're not answered throughout. We've also got excuse me, we've also got Ewan in the background. Ewan's going to be answering some of your questions today in our chat box, but go ahead and use the chat for any kind of discussion. We just say, please keep it positive and respectful. Like, don't even have to say it to our audience, because our audience are so great. But, you know, occasionally people are a little bit, I don't know, argumentative in the chat box. We're all here to learn. We're just here to, you know, it's only accounting software. It's only bookkeeping, so don't stress. It's okay. So just, yeah, please keep it positive and respectful. And today's session is worth 1 CPD point. We're going to have some polls throughout as well. So just please.
We can't hear you.
Disconnected. No worries. I'm sure you'll get back in a sec. AirPods have died.
We always think it's really nice when it's a really interactive session. So if you're watching this and you've got any questions, like you've got an amazing panel of experts here who are really happy to help you with your questions. And I know the FreeAgent team will be here to jump in and answer any questions you've got about the software. I expect there's probably a demo at the end. So stick around for the demo. Yeah. Make sure you get an opportunity to find out all about FreeAgent. We really rate the FreeAgent software, especially for your smallest businesses. So stay around and find out more about that if you don't know already. We've still not got Jem. It's okay. We're all good. Should we do some intros, ladies? Isn't it nice to have an all-female panel? Yeah. It's fabulous. Here we go. So Sobi's here from the ICB. Sobi, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. I'm Sobi Hariharan from the Institute of Certified Bookkeepers, or ICB. I know a lot of you are ICB members, so thanks for joining. I have been at ICB for, well, 6 years in my last stint, but I joined straight out of university, so altogether I think about 9 years. Love the bookkeeping community, love the opportunities that bookkeeping has in the future, and yeah, happy to share my insights with these ladies. So
amazing. Yeah. And Linda's here as well. Linda, hi, nice to see you.
I am. Hello, nice to see you guys again, and really grateful for the opportunity to be on Bookkeepers Boost Week again, which is amazing. So I'm Linda. I run LMO Bookkeeping Limited, and I've been a bookkeeper in practice for about 4 years now, with the ICB for most of those. And I help small businesses. FreeAgent is my main software that I use, and also obviously Xero with a couple of others.
Sorry guys, I'm just checking if you can hear me now.
We can! Yay!
This is the only time it's ever happened to me on a webinar. I'm so embarrassed. I'm sorry. I'm lucky that I'm surrounded by like 4 absolute pros who are like, we'll just keep going. So thank you. Yeah, my AirPods died. I'm sorry about that. Where did we get to in introductions?
Joe will introduce Joe and I. And then we'll come to them.
Thank you so much.
So, oh, look at that! Like
I
magic.
know, I'm trying to do the slides as well, but I was panicking and trying to.
So clever. You're so clever. So I'm Jo Wood. Me and Zoe are like the anti-deck of the bookkeeping space. So you can call us Joey, whatever you want, because most people don't know which one's which, and it's absolutely fine. So we run the Six Figure Bookkeeper. We have an online community of bookkeepers and accountants, all a community of bookkeepers that want to help each other grow, collaboration over competition. There's 24,000 of them now in our free Facebook community. And we are also hosts of the Bookkeepers podcast, and we're doing really well on YouTube as well at the moment, which we are fascinated by. So you can follow us on the Six Figure Bookkeeper over there as well. And basically, we are here because growing our own businesses, our bookkeeping businesses, we wanted somewhere to hang out with like-minded people that were ambitious as well, wanted to grow, but also have some freedom and flexibility around their other life commitments. So yeah, come and join us over there at the Six Figure Bookkeeper.
Love that. And Linda, have we introduced you as well?
Yes. Thank
you. Thank you, guys. Right, that's our regularly scheduled programming now. I didn't get a chance to introduce myself, but I'm definitely, I'm just your host. These ladies are the ones with all the insight today. But I am Jen Malek. I am partnerships consultant here at FreeAgent. And among other things, I do a little bit of webinars, thought leadership, that kind of thing. So if you haven't heard of FreeAgent before, then we are an award-winning accounting software company. We are free for anyone who banks with NatWest, RBS, or Metal, and we are an HMRC recognised MTD-compatible software. Before we get into our live panel, let's go ahead and kick off with a poll. If we have already piqued your interest and you already decide you wanted us to get in touch with you to chat about becoming a FreeAgent partner, please go ahead and vote. And yeah, we will get in touch and we will have a chat with you. I always say, like, our account management team are so friendly. If you are not interested in chatting to us or taking it any further, then we're all still friends here. Doesn't bother us. But it's always lovely to talk to new people. So go ahead and vote if you would like to do that. Or if you're going to maybe have to leave that webinar a little bit early today, happens all the time, then that's not a problem at all. You can let us know just now and we will make sure that we get in touch. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to our live panel in just a moment. And yeah, today we're talking all about the future of bookkeeping. So we'd love to hear about more kind of trends in the industry. Obviously, each of these ladies has such a unique perspective on the bookkeeping industry, which is really exciting. So I'm going to come to, I think, Sobi first. I'd love to hear from you. So tell me about kind of the word bookkeeper. Obviously, you work at ICB, so you get to see lots of different types of bookkeepers all the time and interact with them closely. What does that kind of role mean to you? And do you think that's changed a little bit since you joined the industry, or maybe your perception of it has changed at all?
Yeah, I think, so I actually joined ICB the first time. This is my second stint at ICB, joined straight out of university, nice, like bright 21-year-old, ready for the working world. And back then we had a franking machine in which we would send out our exams, and we had manual exams and computerized exams, and I felt like the computerized exams were kind of a side exam to the main. The emphasis was on the manual, and I think obviously over time that has evolved massively, and at ICB we have had to change our syllabus I think 3 times or 4 times since then, to match the kind of changing needs of businesses and clients, and I think the thing that makes my heart sing is the word bookkeeper because of the connotations that are associated with it. Bookkeepers we've been told by clients, bookkeepers are worth their weight in gold. They're such a essential part of a business. The journey in which bookkeepers go through to kind of go from studying or having no experience in the bookkeeping world to kind of then running their own practices, turning over 6 figures. It's just amazing, and it's so rewarding being part of that journey. But yeah, I think obviously the role has expanded, the responsibilities have expanded, and that's going alongside, you know, the digital needs of the world as well. So yeah, I think it's definitely evolved, and it's really exciting time to be a bookkeeper as well.
For sure. And Linda, you're one of those bookkeepers that runs her own practice. What do you think about your role? How has that changed over the years? Maybe since you've come into like owning your own practice?
Yeah, 100%. So I think when I started as an accounts assistant, it was very similar to what Sobi was just chatting about. It was very manual. We were getting paper invoices. And now, since I've owned my own practice, we've got a lot of software on board, so you can do smart capture, everything is digital, and all of the bots that can link with everything are amazing. They can just save so much time. But that's thinking about the data processing, which is obviously the core of the business. That's the stuff that people are paying you for. But actually the value that I give is more in the relationships that I've built with the business owners. And I think I went into bookkeeping thinking that it was going to be all about ticking boxes and getting all the data up to date, but actually it's the presentation of that information to the business owners and becoming part of their business decision processes, that kind of thing. I kind of want to be their business best friend along the numbers line, so that's where I've positioned myself. It doesn't always start off like that with the relationships. It starts off as I need someone to get on top of my numbers, and then quickly that relationship changes and the confidence comes in the service that I provide. So yeah, it's interesting. It's always evolving, which is great.
I think it's so interesting as well because we all, like, so far everyone's spoken about tech, and tech does have such a big impact on it. But I think, yeah, the role of the bookkeeper goes beyond being that kind of trusted advisor. And Jo, I know you've spoken to me before about how you do less actual bookkeeping now, that now that you're doing all the other like things that you do. So what does that like role of the bookkeeper? What does that mean to you in the aspect that you're delivering to your community now, and you're like taking on a new kind of, I don't know, a new face of bookkeeping?
Yeah, it's really interesting, like what I think has happened and the conversations I was even having at the Accounting Excellence Awards this week. The conversations I'm having with bookkeepers have changed because the belief in what can be achieved has changed. So I think a mindset shift has happened for bookkeepers over the last few years. You know, I remember when Zoe and I first talked about 6-figure bookkeepers, people thought we were like mental. What do you mean? Like people can't earn that much from bookkeeping. And not that that's what we're about. We're about building a business that you want. But what we've noticed is that people are designing. We've had a chat this morning with a bookkeeper, and you can tell that even though there's things that she wants to tweak and do, she's designed a business around her values and her boundaries, and she's deciding whether she works with somebody or not, which when I started my practice, I didn't believe I had the power to do that. I didn't believe I could design a business. But the other thing I'm noticing is the conversations I'm having with people. Yeah, I sold my practice a year ago now. So again, that belief that, wow, we can build one day and we can sell. So talking to business owners about building a business with exit in mind, regardless of whether they sell or whether the other conversation we have all the time is, I want to remove myself from the day-to-day operations. I want to have a profitable business, but I don't want to be tied to that business. I feel that when the bookkeepers are having those conversations and therefore feeling that themselves, they're having better conversations with their clients about that and about their own exit. So again, we're moving that conversation away from that data entry and into future conversations, which is really exciting.
I love that. And I think as well, like you've like given me a perfect segue into what I was about to talk to Zoe about, because setting those boundaries for a bookkeeper is so empowering. And I think the thing is, we see a lot of women who've, or other people like who have gone into bookkeeping because of the flexibility that allows them to give in their life. And Zoe, like I know that you have a lot of experience with that. So like, what do you think about people going into that career, or what are your experiences with going into that and how it's allowed you to build a life that works for you?
Okay, so I think that what Linda was saying earlier about how we become bookkeepers thinking we're going to be doing lots of data processing, that we need to know that that isn't what anyone coming into the bookkeeping profession will be leading with in the future. Like, it's changing now. So that the first thing is that has gone, that role has gone, because we have bots and automations and people who can do it cheaper than us. And if we're only focusing on how we can do that, we're going to commoditize ourselves in a way that we could just be replaced with another bookkeeper who happens to be cheaper than us, or a bot, which is the real, that's the real challenge, isn't it? So we have to work in a different way going forwards. But I became a bookkeeper with the view of I need to have flexibility, like a lot of people here did. I was like, okay, I don't want to be an employee anymore. I want to work around the children, that kind of thing. But often when we do that, we go into work with coming from a kind of a place of, oh, well, let's just hope it goes okay. It's kind of coming from a place of lack, like, I just hope someone wants to pay me. Like Joe said, I'll think I could take on any client. I don't get to choose who it is. And I felt like that. I was just kind of waiting for people to give me some work. But then when you take a step back and realize that you're growing the business as a business owner, which is maybe the gap in professional qualifications at the moment, Sobi. I don't know. I'm not having a dig at ICB because I don't know what the syllabus looks like right now. But I think that might be the thing that we start to see coming into professional qualifications now, like the role of the business owner and actually saying, hey, you are a business owner if you do this, so that people start to design businesses differently, because we know that piece is going with the routine bookkeeping is going to be going away from the individual's role, which is a really great opportunity to talk to your clients better and give them better support. But I think the whole way we design the service will look different. And actually that does give us more flexibility. So it is a win-win. It's just going to be a big shift for people as we sort of go through that transition. For sure. It's like a chicken and an egg situation. Like, bookkeeping is something that's been born from people wanting flexibility, and now it's providing flexibility. So that role of the bookkeeper and I always say that at FreeAgent, we really champion bookkeeping as a career of choice. But I really think that perception is changing amongst the community and from other people as well, which is lovely to see. Sobi, that's really nice way for us to move on to that. Any thoughts about that kind of perception changing in the industry, or any insights that you have from ICB that indicate what that's going to look like in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think the flexible element of the profession is what is so appealing about it. I mean, I talk about bookkeeping. I work in the marketing department at ICB. I talk about it so much that I'm like, why am I not a bookkeeper, and why aren't I doing it myself? And it could happen in the future because I talk about it so much, and it's such a lucrative career at the moment. There is so much room for bookkeepers. There's so much demand. And I think that's down to kind of the increase in small and micro businesses who don't need audits, who don't need to do complicated tax returns. They just need someone that's going to help deal with the books while they can focus on their business. Nobody starts a business thinking about, oh, I need to, think about compliance. And I think all they want to do is sell coffee, or they want to paint, or they want to be a plumber. They don't want to have to think about the finances. So that role of the bookkeeper is just getting bigger and bigger, being more of a decision maker within these small businesses, being more kind of associated with the strategy and the process of the business. And I think that, that's why as I mentioned before, they're worth their weight in gold, because they are such a rounded person within the financial function of these small businesses. So that's just going to grow with more automation, with more AI, with more, compliance and tax are changing every day. And also the element of, data security. People are always worried about that when they're offering a service. It then falls on kind of the bookkeeper to kind of do that continuous learning to make sure that, the data and the client information is all kept safe. So, I think there's so much there's so much out there for bookkeepers to be continuously learning about and upskilling on.
Yeah, for sure. And Linda, I know that we were talking just before the webinar started, we were talking about, I said, like, how many sessions have you been to this week for Bookkeeper Boost week? So, and you're big on learning and development, right? I know that you're really championing that. What kind of things do you do to make sure that you are both keeping up with your clients, having that really strong relationship while keeping up with industry trends and qualifications and all that kind of stuff? Is there anything in particular that's helped you a lot?
I think attending live events is always a good idea. You get so much more from the live events. So I think the most informative one that I've been to this year has been, apart from Bookkeepers Boost Week, obviously, has been Accountex in Manchester. So I'm quite an introverted person, but I do enjoy learning in person. And the Manchester version of Accountex is just so much smaller and manageable for me as an introvert. I still need a lie down in a dark room afterwards, but it was really nice. And it also helped build community as well, because I've recently become an ICB chair for Manchester. So it was really nice to get a space set up for us to all meet in person as well and bring that community. And I think it's that community alongside the in-person learning that can really help you stay up to date. So there might be something that's passed me by, but in a casual conversation in one of those meetings or catch-up sessions, we'll pass on information like that as well and transfer webinar knowledge, that kind of thing. So I think community and in-person is the best way for me to learn, definitely.
Yeah, and I think as well, when we look towards the future, as we are talking about the future today, I think for me, since I started in the accounting industry, accounting and bookkeeping industry, but I've seen that, like, obviously live events have been, really well attended, and then COVID, so they were less attended. But community has always been something that's been a real cornerstone of bookkeeping. Jo, you run alongside Zoe's Six-Figure Bookkeeper. So what do you think has been some learnings from bookkeepers in, like, building communities, and how do you think that that's going to continue on in the future?
So a trend that we're noticing in our community is that we're better together. So when I started in an accountancy role years ago, I remember, it feeling like we couldn't talk to anyone from another accountancy firm because they're out for your knowledge. And that's how it was made to make me feel. And I felt like it's so secretive. And I think lots of us have had that if we've come from practice. So we naturally act like that as self-employed. But the biggest learning I've had, like Linda said, is from community and just hearing what's going on and the way people are doing things now. We have to be careful not to get comparisonitis and to take the blinkers off and look left, right, and shiny objects everywhere and things like this. So we have to know what we want to do, what we want to achieve, and stay in our lane. And Zoe and I talk a lot about like creating this perfect repeatable week, because we know that the magic happens in the boring consistency of doing the right activities over and over again. But having people as sounding boards, and also the biggest thing we find in our Bookkeepers Collective is the conversations that happen with the expertise. So when I was running a practice on my own for years, and I was subcontracting, I used to have to go to the accountant I was subcontracting for to ask questions. And that always disempowered me, and it always made me feel less than all the time. He was up here, I was down here. He was paying me a much lower hourly rate. He was creaming off all this profit. And I did that for 7 years. And we often say, we talk about building businesses, but I believe you should be able to make money however you want from your bookkeeping skills. Zoe and I are like, if you want to go and get a job and that's right for you, go and get a job. If you want to subcontract, if you want to work for another bookkeeper, another accountant, do that. If you want to be out there on your own as a solopreneur, do that. If you want to build a team, do that. We have so many options with bookkeeping. It is amazing. And like you said, Linda, we all have different personalities. Being an introvert maybe doesn't mean that you want to have a massive team and manage all these people. That's fine. You get to pick and choose, and you get to design that. But the best things that I see is when we have a question from a client and we can come into a community and ask in a safe space without judgment, without anyone looking down their nose and go, why don't you know that? Because that's how I always used to feel. And then actually coming back with amazing answers. I learned something from someone another accountant's TikTok yesterday. I saw their TikTok and I didn't know something about mileage expenses. And I'm like, that's really cool. If there's 2 of you traveling in a car, you can claim 50p. I didn't know that. I don't care. I don't mind saying I don't know everything. I really don't know everything, but my community as a whole does, and we can find the answers. And so I think this, again, is the mindset and confidence shift that we're finding as bookkeepers, because we have these amazing communities that we can go and call on for this expertise.
Oh, I love that. Sorry, go ahead.
Or if I add to that, because
I was literally just about to ask you to. So
brilliant. I mean, Jo and I are one person, so you know, I know also the other things in her head. But Jo was talking about feeling disempowered, having conversations with the accountant that she worked with. Now, one of the things that we also talk about is taking responsibility for yourself, because you know we are in control of ourselves and actually our feelings and our mindset. So I just want to say, you in that situation, if you are in that situation where you're going to speak to an accountant, perhaps that you subcontract for, you get to choose how you feel. So you don't have to feel disempowered. It's on you. Like, how am I going to approach the situation? I don't know this yet, so I'm going to ask for help, and then I will know it. So that's first of all, that's a reframe to take in mind. But also, Sobi was saying about how in demand bookkeepers are. And we're finding that, you know, when we were at Accountex this week, we had accountants and contacts who were speaking to accountants saying to us and saying to Jo, we need to know more about how accountants can build bookkeeping into their business more, because there clearly is something that we don't know how to do here. How are you pricing that? How are you delivering that? What does that actually look like? Why on earth are you doing daily bookkeeping and not quarterly bookkeeping? So actually, on the other side of that, like, maybe we don't have the same, like, you might not have the same technical training if you're not an accountant in practice by like as your background, but there is something you know about the way bookkeeping happens that other people don't know. So we all have something to bring to the table. And I think that's why community is so important, because you need those sounding boards and you need the different angle on the problem you've got.
I 100% could not agree more. And I think as well, like, that is what's so lovely about working with the bookkeeping community for me, is that there is a much less competitive outlook on helping small businesses. There's that like idea that there is enough work for everyone and everyone's there to help each other. It's just so lovely. And that is one thing, like, I'm sure we've got plenty of accountants here today, but I think there's so much that accountants can learn from bookkeepers in that respect, because that kind of superpower of being able to really relate to your clients and really build that relationship is so unique and fantastic. So I absolutely agree. So when we're thinking about going to our community for advice, I had a session earlier this week, actually, with Johan Gori from Engager app, and we were talking all about tech. Now, I know, like Linda, for example, we were talking about Expert the other week, and there's so much new tech on the market. And you were saying, like, you know, let others maybe be the first trialists or get advice from others about your tech stack. But how are we kind of, how are you seeing tech inform bookkeeping in the future? Linda, I'll go to you first. What do you think about that? Like, how is kind of tech changing the way that you work as a bookkeeper? I know we've touched on it already, but.
No, it's fine. I think tech is going to be my AI leader, essentially. I don't know about AI. I know that ChatGPT exists and it's great for creating content and that kind of stuff. But I don't know, and I don't want to know, how it all links together. But if I can get tech on board that I trust and are going to stay ahead of all of those changes, like FreeAgent, Apron, that's like a brilliant OCR reader, that kind of thing, then my job just becomes easier. And essentially, I'm getting all of the data much quicker. It's more accurate. I think then it's just a case of being able to translate all of that data and information from the tech that it gives you and staying on top of all of those changes so that you can relate that back to your client. Mm-hmm. That's the role of the bookkeeper, and that's how I see my role with tech evolving. It's staying ahead of those changes. Mm-hmm. Things like Client Engager app, are leading the way with their communication and their community feel. The way that they can completely answer any questions on Facebook within like 2 minutes I don't think anyone else can live up to that at the moment. They're just absolutely amazing. And the way that they can collaborate and bring everyone else on board it's bringing in that sense of community as well within the tech stack. So it's building client relationships, and I think it's a really competitive market, and it's those relationships and knowing that you're going to be listened to, the developments are things that you're asking for, that can really help set those apart, definitely, for the future of their business as well as ours. For sure. And see how you're talking about AI and, like, you know, you said openly there, I don't know about it and I don't want to know about it. Like, that is okay. There is so much tech out there, and I work in tech, and I find it quite a volatile market, honestly. I do think it's changing constantly. Even at FreeAgent, like, we're bringing out lots of new features and things. I truly believe in our product. I think it's so great when they're really helpful. But honestly, there's a lot of stuff out there that not everyone needs to know about, and not everyone needs to find, like, shoehorn into their business. Sobi, like, you were at Accountex Manchester, or all the Accountexes, and we see so many new products coming to the market. What do you think, like, in terms of the clients that you work with at ICB and all the bookkeepers, what are some of the common kind of, I don't know, approaches to tech that you see?
Yeah, I think like Linda mentioned earlier, she's not just using one piece of software. I think the thing about bookkeepers, yes, there are kind of 100% Xero or 100% QuickBooks or 100% FreeAgent practices out there, but the majority of them are using a mix of everything depending on what is best for their client. So you see people that are using Sage for one client and FreeAgent for another client, and they have different tech stacks depending on what the client needs. And I think that's what makes bookkeepers really special. They really get to know the business first before kind of pushing tech on them. They're very much aware of what the tech, they analyze what the tech what the business requires, and then makes an informed decision on what tech, suits them best. So when we speak to new tech that's coming out, they always, say, we found a hole in the market, we found a gap in the market where
everyone's found a gap in the market.
Yeah, exactly. and we don't disagree. We say, yeah, maybe that is for a certain type of business. So there's plenty, like we mentioned, that bookkeepers are in demand. Bookkeepers don't work in one way. Everyone works in different ways. It's the same with tech. There's different tech for different styles and different types of businesses. And I just wanted to go back on a point that Joe mentioned about how, and Zoe, about the disempowerment. I actually think bookkeepers are early adopters to tech. And I think that they're way ahead of the game when it comes to knowing what's out there. Maybe they're not comfortable. Linda, you mentioned you're not completely in tune with AI, and yeah, it's absolutely fine. But that it's there, and that there's something that can be brought in. And if, push comes to shove, and there's times, in the next couple of months where you might find that one of your clients needs to, implement an AI solution, I know that you're going to find your way around it and make it work. So yeah, I think there's so much tech, and bookkeepers are in the best position to know what's out there.
Yeah, I always say, like, bookkeeping to me is like somewhat a tech job, because bookkeepers have made it that, and they take such a pride in being a trusted advisor. In my experience working with bookkeepers, they take such pride in being a trusted advisor that you all want to know everything about everything, and it's so wonderful to see. What do you think, Zoe?
Sorry.
Please, by all means.
Apologies. I was just going to add on to Sobi's point. So essentially, there isn't one correct, like you said, there isn't just one correct tech stack that can suit every client. But so long as you have the client at the heart, they don't even need to know what tech stack you're using. Yeah. So long as you're giving them the information that they need and that they want out of the data, then that's the job of AI, isn't it? To give the client what they need.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like you say, like, there's not one tech stack suited to all bookkeepers, and there's not one bookkeeping software suited to all clients. There's a lot that goes into it. Zoe, we'd love to know from you, like, in terms of tech and building a tech stack and maybe leaning on the community for advice, what was your approach to that when you were in bookkeeping, and how do you see that kind of evolving?
I suppose I was very much led by what I was seeing at events. And I didn't have the benefit of a community around me at the time. So I made some very expensive decisions. And I look back now, I think about things like AML software that's out there now, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was spending so much money on Credit Safe and, you know, things that right now probably wouldn't be at all the go-to. So it's really interesting how I feel like there are lots more things out there that I'm aware of. That doesn't necessarily mean there are more tools out there, but in my awareness, there are more things out there. But I also feel like there are opportunities to work at lots of different levels of investment, depending on what you particularly need. In terms of how that changes in the future, and what we were talking about not needing to have or the same tech stack not suiting every client, my personal view is, because technology is going to come in and replace a lot of the transactional work that we've done in the past, and we all know that we are very good at communicating as bookkeepers. That's actually one of our strengths. You know, I think that's why we have a very collaborative community. I'm not going to say that this is the reason, but you know, we're a panel today of females. I think that one of the strengths of women, if you think back to like caveman times and the way we would have brought our families up as tribes, we are people who come together and share and collaborate and support one another. Our community isn't at all completely female, but it's very strongly female led. And I wonder whether that culture has changed the way that this sort of service is able to be offered. But I think we're going to have to we're going to have the time to embrace the opportunity to communicate with our clients. But something Joe and I believe in really strongly is building a service that works for a specific type of client and becoming an expert in that area. Just like Joe did with the salon industry. So Joe's practice was focused on salons. That didn't mean she only attracted salons as clients, but she led everything in her business with what would a salon need and how do I get in front of more salons? Because once you do that, you can actually create a scalable system where it's very easy to train people who come into your business. They understand how that tool works. You replicate that across your client base. And then you also have insights where you're able to say, oh, do you know, you might be able to make some more money by doing it like this because I've seen that in another salon. And you're able to kind of benchmark and compare and contrast, which makes you a real sort of insider expert for the clients. You're almost like in a advisory coaching role when you're in that position, because you can say, actually, this works really well. I've seen it done in practice. So I think that there's a real opportunity. It doesn't mean everyone's going to do it because everyone has their own way, but I think there's an opportunity to automate a lot of the bookkeeping work, move into communication and focus on a specific area where you're really strong and you really care and you really got an interest. And that might mean that we start to see bookkeepers have a much slicker tech stack rather than having lots of different subscriptions, which I know can be that's one of the big challenges we have when we start working with bookkeepers, sort of unpicking this.
For sure, it's overwhelming to have a tech stack that doesn't talk to each other or that is not streamlined. Joe, it'd be good to hear about that kind of niching side of things. I know that you guys are big champions for niching your client base, and that's something that I've then passed on to basically everyone that I speak to. So tell us a little bit about that kind of niching. Why is it so important to make sure that you're focusing on the things that you do really well?
So remember when I said at the beginning that I used to take on any client, I was just grateful for any client, and that didn't matter if they were horrible to me. That didn't matter if they didn't pay me on time. That didn't matter. You know, I used to be shaking sometimes handing over a VAT return because I felt like it was my fault that the VAT return was so big. Like I've worked with some horrors. But so the first thing that I started with was the fact that I wanted to like my clients. This was my first niche. What if I liked all my clients and I felt that they were friends of mine? So my first thing was, I'm not going to take on a client, and this is the first way that I niche down. I'm not going to take on a client unless they want to be my Facebook friend. That's how I started. And what happened was that I then created myself a client avatar. I wrote her name, I wrote her age, I wrote what kind of family she had, what she liked to have as a takeaway, what she drank at the weekends, I created this avatar, and I didn't know what industry. And I think everyone confuses niche and industry. So when I'm talking about niche, I'm thinking about values. what kind of values do you want in a client? So mine was that they wanted to be my friend, which sounds really needy now, but it's true. I wanted to be friends with my clients. That maybe that they were virtual was another thing. I didn't want to go to people's offices. I had 3 children at home, and I decided I'd done that for years. Actually, I wanted to build a virtual practice. So something else was that they were happy for me. So what happened was, and somebody that was really nervous around numbers that I could impact and really empower. And it happened to be that I went to a salon to have some waxing done, and we was chatting about her VAT return, and she was so petrified of her accountant, and she'd been running her business for 2 decades, and she was like, this is the thing that keeps me up at night. And funny enough, we were already Facebook friends. I really liked her. She was feeling disempowered around her numbers, and she had a salon, which meant she didn't have an extra room for me to go and be in, because all their rooms were making money. So I took her on as a client, and she went into a group full of salons and said, oh my goodness, I found someone that talks to me in English about VAT. I'm feeling amazing. And guess what? They all said, oh, we want to talk to her too. So I accidentally found the industry by choosing the values and the other things I wanted to find. And then I was able, and like Zoe said, I worked with plumbers, I worked with all business coaches and loads of different people. But when I spoke to my clients and did marketing, I was really comfortable attracting those salons because they fit the criteria of what I wanted to work with.
Really think that's super cool. I just think that it's so lovely, like, to be able to, I don't know, go to the places where you can make such big impact. I think that's amazing. And Linda, I know we spoke about this a wee while ago. This may be a bit of a convoluted segue for myself, but anyway, we spoke about this a while ago about how we can really empower people and how we can help people. And I just would love to touch on the topic of kind of how can we empower others who are affected by accessibility, you know, neurodiversity, like even other bookkeepers who, like you say, this is a female-led industry, and like none of us here are strangers to the fact that being a woman can be really heavily impacted by like, I don't know, negativity in the industry. So what do you think, what can we do to really empower those who really need the help of a bookkeeper, or who need the help of someone with those values?
100%. So I think this year alone, I've become so much more aware of neurodiversity, not only within my household, but within just behaviours that I see displayed. And I think because it's something that I can relate to, it's something then that you can build the stepping stones towards getting over those barriers, whatever they may be, whether it's just that you don't like seeing people, then we can have a Zoom call. We can do, I can do a quick video. Oh, sorry, my dog's just...
That's okay. I was actually waiting on mine going crazy at some point. At one point, my boyfriend did come through and start talking to her, but I was waiting on mine didn't see. Don't worry.
So yeah, we have, I can do a Loom video, for example, that they can watch and they can pause and they can make sure that they understand. It's a case of getting the relationship built slowly in a way that they can trust you. They can see the value in what the relationships bring in 100%. So I think with the neurodiversity, I've created steps where we meet up as much as possible so that relationship's built very gently. If it's in person, I find those a lot more accessible for the language that we use. I can tell a bit more if somebody can understand what I'm saying if I see them in person, rather than just nodding along like on a Zoom screen. You can be like, yeah, that's fine. Then they go away and I have no idea what I've just told them. Whereas in person, you can just explain it in so many more different ways. And I've also learned to make time frames more flexible. So I really enjoy having things ticked off by the end of the month or within 3 weeks of the end of the month. Not everybody cares so much. So I've become a bit more flexible around their own respect for deadlines. Some people are a deadline dodger, and I've learned that that's not the way I like to work. So I move away from those clients to respect my own boundaries as well. So I'm not sure if that answered your question, if I just went off on a tangent, but it's kind of along the lines of the way that I'm enjoying working alongside ADHD or neurodiverse, autistic people.
No, I love that. And I think as well, like we're thinking about empowering people to take on a career in bookkeeping or to continue a career in bookkeeping, because listen, for no one is their career ever like smooth all the time. So hearing these stories is really beneficial. Sobi, what about you? Do you think that there's ways that we are, as a community, that I say we, I'm not a bookkeeper, but that you as a community are empowering others through bookkeeping? What are your takes on that?
Yeah, I mean, I have been given some really great opportunities in the last kind of 2 years to talk about diversity and inclusion at Accountex and DAS. And one of the main things that I kind of focus on is actually there's a lot of people, when they approach inclusivity, they think about a certain type of people or they kind of tick box it. But I actually think you need to step back and look at it from a whole. And I use this analogy because it was near the time that my friend, we were going on a hen do for one of my friends. And I had noted the different strengths that each bridesmaid brought to the table. And so there was like, it was just very obvious in the group chat. I just got added into a group chat. There was one that was like super organized, had like planned the whole thing, had like done all the bookings. She was like project manager of it. And there was another bridesmaid who was, all about the fun. So she'd booked all the kind of activities and like, planned all the fun elements of it. There was someone who had talked about the dress code, someone who was like, right, this is going to be really creative. This is going to look great on the photos. And basically, each bridesmaid had something to bring to the table. And together, it made the hen amazing. But individually, they all had kind of strengths and weaknesses. And obviously, project manager was like, we need to do this by this time. And we need to be at dinner at 8 o'clock and blah, blah, blah. And then, there was another one that was just all about, making sure that everyone was having fun, making sure that the drinks were poured and everyone was having a great time. That person might have been perceived as not kind of pulling their weight, but actually they carried such a huge part of that hen do. And so similarly, when we look at work and when we look at even working with our clients, actually you might find that there's strengths in what they are able to bring in, even if there are other elements that they might need help in. And so I think the thing that we need to look at is making things more accessible and understanding how your clients and how your employees digest information. So some people, they'll look at a report and they'll see a graph and they'll be like, I don't know how to read that. Some people, you might need to bring them in and read it out for them. And explain it to them in one-to-one. Some people prefer to kind of just get a report, read it, and they don't want any pictures. They just want the bullet points. So I think you have to understand that there are various formats in which you can present information. And once you've identified that with your clients or employees, I think it just makes it easier across the board. And just basically understanding and accommodating those requirements. I think that just makes a huge difference and makes people feel a bit more included within the office, I guess.
Love that. There's strength in unity for sure. I know that we're creeping up on time, but there's strength in unity, like I say, best union in bookkeeping, Joe and Zoe. So what do you guys think about kind of empowering? I guess actually for you guys, I'd love it if you can tell me about empowering each other. I know that we were speaking earlier about having a sounding board and that kind of thing. So how does that empowerment come into the community around you as well as with your clients? And Joe, you can kick us off.
Love this. So I think it's like with any, I liken it to a marriage, as in, because it is a partnership. And a bit like what Sobi was just saying, it can sometimes be perceived that someone's not pulling their weight. And what's hilarious with me and Zoe is we constantly think that, I always think, oh my goodness, Zoe's doing way more than me. And Zoe constantly thinks, well, Joe's doing way more, because it's easier to see someone else's strengths than it is to see what you're bringing to the table. And the reality is Zoe and I have a very different skill set. And we think the same value-wise, and I think it's really important when you're in any type of partnership is to have the same values, but it doesn't mean you have to bring the same skills to the table. And actually, it's a bit of a dance in the fact that sometimes one of us has got loads of stuff going on at home or with the kids or something, and our energy might not be there at the same level, and the other one can pick that up and say, it's fine, I've got you, it's fine, you do you. And that's a beautiful thing in that kind of partnership. And I think that is the same in marriage as well. It doesn't always have to be exactly 50-50. Sometimes someone's had a better night's sleep than the other, and they've got more energy, and they can do more things. So I think it's about recognizing what your strengths are. And Zoe and I do this quite a lot. We talk about, we big each other up and say, oh my goodness, you've done this, well, that's amazing, I could have never done. Like owning and being, like Zoe, you spoke about, like taking accountability. I know that Zoe has a brain that is very technological, and she thinks very fast, and she can see where there's a zap that needs to happen with Zapier, and I'm like, I wouldn't even know where to start. I don't even know the login for Zapier, but that's fine. She's got that, and she can deal with that. And there's other things where I'm like, I'll have a chat with them, and she's like, you all right with that? I'm like, yeah, I can have a chat. So we have this thing, and I think that that's what's beautiful about community, is that we don't need to be everything. We don't need to have all the answers and all the skills. And sometimes, you know, and this is the thing, sometimes we feel like we need the next exam, we need the next piece of software, we need to understand. And actually, sometimes it's okay to know, do you know what? I know enough with what I've got, and I can pull on other people and play this lovely dance with everybody in a community. And that's okay. And I think that's kind of becoming a grown-up CEO in your business.
And I think as well, you know, thanks, Joe, by the way. I could never be in business with anyone else, just to say that. My work-wise. Like, also, like, our husbands are like married to each other now as well. So, you know, it works very well.
It's just as well, because they've each only got half a wife, so.
Yeah. Oh my God, don't even go there. Right, anyway, moving on. But what I think, you know, we were talking about neurodiversity and mental health and diversity. And one of the reasons, well, you know what, the majority of people in our community have become bookkeepers because they need self-employment for some reason, usually working around family. But also we see people becoming entrepreneurs, and you see this more and more in entrepreneurship, people who themselves are neurodiverse and just need to have that freedom, need to not be stuck in a rigid employment situation. So self-employment works really well for them. Also, we obviously, lots of the women who come into bookkeeping are doing that a little bit later. It's not necessarily their first choice of career. And we go through hormonal changes, perimenopause, menopause. A lot of people experience that, and that messes with your brain. Like, just got to put it out there. Like, we go work with people who are going through a massive transition in their lives. So their businesses do need to be flexible. And I think there is, like, with community, there's this brilliant opportunity to work with other people side by side. Maybe they're not business partners or, you know, team members, but there is this great sort of subcontracting culture. There's lots of work that moves around and where you can ask for support. I think that's really beautiful. And one of the questions that's been raised, which has come from Karen, I've seen in the chat, is, you know, when we're talking about being a trusted advisor, what are the limitations of that advice? Obviously, we're not talking about financial advice. We're talking about just working with, like, giving our clients insights that answer the questions they have. But how do we deal with the crossover of when an accountant is needed is the other part of the question. And actually, you just say, actually, I know someone else who is really great, who's going to help you with that part. I've taken you to here, and now I need to bring this person in. You'll speak to them, or you can go through me and I'll be the main point of contact. So, you know, it's okay. It's just openness and choosing your people. We spoke about the tribe. Choose the people who are in your tribe, bring them into your team. Like, I think there's this really wonderful opportunity for, like, collaborative working, which is really exciting.
I love that. And thank you so much for talking so openly about the way being a woman can impact how we work in business. I think it's, we're really lucky to have women like you in the industry who are able to offer such sound advice to others. But also, yeah, it's just lovely to hear it being spoken about more openly. So thank you. Guys, we're only 5 minutes from the end, and I am aware I have a demo to get through. However, one last question for all of you. So we're talking about the future leaders, the future bookkeepers of the world. And I would just love, in a couple of sentences maybe, just to hear if, for those who are looking to explore a new career in bookkeeping, what's just a piece of advice that you would give to them? And I'll go to Linda first, if you don't mind.
Of course. I would say choose a bookkeeping software that you understand so that you can teach your clients how to use it properly and thoroughly, and also get a community around you, because without that community, you just won't stay ahead of things.
Love that. So what about you?
I think it's having the knowledge that you get to choose, you get to design, you get to build and create whatever you want it to look like. And it doesn't have to look like everything else that you've seen. It definitely doesn't have to look, if you've come out of practice, doesn't have to look like the accountancy firm that you've worked for in the past. That was one of my biggest mistakes. I kept trying to replicate that and it wasn't working because it wasn't working. So I think knowing that you get to choose, you get to design how your business looks, you get to design and choose the clients you work with, you get to choose the software you work with, yes, and you get to choose that kind of tribe that you spend the most time with. And I think that's really liberating, because I didn't realize that there was that much that I got to decide on when I first started.
Love that. Zoe?
And I suppose building on what Jo just said, if you build a business around something that you really love and that you're prepared to be the expert in, you're going to love it even more. So go, work out, what is it that I am really good at? And you might, this is hard, because this is we don't look for the good things about ourselves all the time. We are always comparing and saying, oh, I'm not good enough, I need to do another exam. But there is something you're really good at, and maybe you need someone else to give you the feedback on that. So find out what it is you're really good at and then own it, and know that you're the expert there, and that's the real strength you bring to the business, because that's where you're going to be in that sweet spot of really, really helping your clients.
Nice. And Sobi, finish us off, would you?
Well, yeah, I think you don't be afraid of not having prior experience or not knowing, what you're doing, where you're going. Like everyone has said before, you've got your community. From a qualifications perspective, just gonna do a plug for ICB, but we don't expect you to have any prior qualifications or experience. You can come into it, fresh, with nothing prior, no degrees, no GCSEs, and all of our exams are available on demand 24/7, and you've got so much support. So why not just give it a go?
Fantastic. And yeah, I think as well, when we're thinking about ICB, it's already been put in the chat about ICB, which is lovely to see. But as you're doing a plug anyway, I will also say we've got ICB Summit coming up next month. This, for anyone who's here who maybe hasn't been to a FreeAgent webinar before, who's thinking about a career in bookkeeping, who's just found this really interesting, ICB, I think we're all going to be there. It's a great way to build a community, meet other people, learn a little bit about bookkeeping. I'm sure that you have really enjoyed listening to all these lovely ladies talk today about bookkeeping. And if you would like to chat a little bit to the team at FreeAgent, maybe about how FreeAgent can help your bookkeeping practice, then go ahead and let us know on this poll that we've got right here. Yeah, it's been so lovely to chat to you all today. I knew it would be. I just want to say, I guess, from my perspective, I count myself incredibly lucky that I get to sit on a panel with the four of you, four women who I really admire, and yeah, just appreciate how open you are talking and the kind of advice that you give. I'm sure that we could sit all day and talk about bookkeeping, but yeah, for me, I guess just thank you so much. It's been lovely. So
thanks
cheers.
so much for the
Thanks for having us.
Oh, I love having you guys on, honestly. Just such a lovely bunch of people, honestly. And bookkeepers, I always say it, bookkeepers are just my favorite people to work with. So yeah, appreciate it. This has been our last webinar in our Bookkeeper Boost week. If you want to see the other sessions, then you can go ahead and go online, and they will be available, I think, from next week. If you have not already, you can take part in our giveaway. If you want to go ahead to LinkedIn, then you can take part. And at that point, I'm going to go into a demo shortly, but thank you again, ladies. Appreciate it so much. And I'll speak to you all soon, I'm sure. And I'll see you next month at ICB.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks to them so much. Oh, just what a lovely group of people. I can see we've had a few questions in the chat. I'm really sorry that we've not been able to get through them all today. I, in typical Gem fashion, have just run over. However, we are going to go into a demo just now. If you would like to stick around for the demo, please do. And there will be a poll afterwards. So if you want us to get in touch, then you can let us know. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to bring up my FreeAgent dashboard. So if you haven't seen FreeAgent before, like I said earlier, FreeAgent is a bookkeeping software. We work really well for small business clients. And today I'm just going to give you a little flavor of what it looks like. Let's see where we are. Here we go. Hopefully you can all see my screen. It's going to be a bit of a whistle-stop tour today of FreeAgent. So we know that we are in the FreeAgent accounting and bookkeeping dashboard because we have this lovely green banner at the top. And it's got a list of all of my clients here. It's pretty intuitive software, I would say. So if you are a bookkeeper in practice, then this is what you'll see when you log in. But today we're just going to switch into this client at the bottom here and have a look at what they've got going on in their finances. So we've got a little insight pop up here, but generally the overview page is just going to give you a bit of a snapshot of what they've got going on in their business. One of the things I really love to call out is our tax timeline here. This is, I believe, unique to FreeAgent, and it's just going to give your clients a bit of an understanding of any of their upcoming important tax dates, which is really great. Just think it's lovely to give your clients financial autonomy like that. But our permissions are completely customizable. So if you maybe have a client that you don't want to see too much information and you're going to do a lot of the bookkeeping on their behalf, then that's not a problem as well. You can change their permissions in settings. So yeah, like I say, we've got our tax timeline, little mini P&L there, as well as at the top here, you can see all the usual suspects. We've got contacts, projects, time tracking, bills. We've got our payroll capabilities, as well as ability to complete self-assessment and file it directly through FreeAgent software. You are able to access your reports as well. But today, if you've been on a webinar earlier this week with me, then you will have seen this already, but I'll do it again. This is my go-to because at FreeAgent, the banking section is the heartbeat of FreeAgent. This is where most people kind of live. We are really friendly for small businesses. We were talking about ICB earlier and the Luca Awards. We've won 2 years in a row the friendliest software of the year at the Luca Awards. And this is part of the reason why we are friendly in the fact that we are a lovely group of people who want to talk to you, but also we do use like friendly language, kind of layman's terms for your clients. So money in, money out instead of credit and debit, just to make it as easy as possible for them to understand what's going on in their finances. We do implement AI, as I spoke about earlier, and one of the ways that we do that is we are able to have a look at the transactions that you've got going on in your account, and we will automatically explain these transactions based on what others have done before you, as well as what you typically do. So, for example, you might always categorize your Hilton hotel as accommodation and meals. The more you do that, the more it's going to tell our software that that's what you want to do all the time. But those are completely customizable, and we can bulk explain these transactions as well. Now, I've not spoken very much about my favorite feature of FreeAgent. However, we are constantly bringing out new features that are really great for accountants and bookkeepers to utilize. You can see at the top we have an enable bank feed button. If I had a bank feed connected to this account, then my accountant or bookkeeper would be able to reconsent my bank feed on my behalf and on behalf of their other clients in bulk every 30 days when it expires. Just a big time saver, and one that I love to point out. Like I say, it's a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but that is FreeAgent. That is a little bit of what we're about. If you would like to hear more about how we can help you and your practice, then you can go ahead and let us know on this poll just here. This is the end of Bookkeeper Boost week, I suppose. So I just want to say thank you so much. We've had some amazing sessions. We had pricing, branding, tech stacks. Obviously today we've had our panel and we've had sustainability. So if you have missed any of those sessions and you liked what you saw today, then please just go online and have a look at the ones that we've posted. We will be at ICB. I'm fortunate enough to have been asked to do a talk at ICB. So if you're coming, then please make sure that you pop by our stand and say hello, get some socks. I love talking to new bookkeepers. And I'm also on LinkedIn. So if you want to connect with me there, then please do. Love to share insights into the accounting and bookkeeping world. And I think that's us for today. I'm going to leave the poll up just so that if people would like to reply, then they can. But thank you so much. It's been a lovely week. We do this week, Bookkeeper Boost week every year, and we would love to see you again next year. And next month, or sorry, later in this month, we've got another webinar coming up about self-assessment, so you can join us for that. And on that note, I will leave you all. Thank you so much, and see you on the next one.